Good morning. I'm Tom Schatz, President of Citizens Against Government Waste, and I want to thank you all for joining us here today for the 2007 Congressional Pig Book Press Conference. The Congressional Pig Book this year is the smallest it's been since 1999, and the reason for that is standing right next to me here, Senator Jim DeMint, who in December, joined by Senators Tom Coburn and Jeff Sessions, fought the approval of 9 appropriations bills over in the Senate. And in doing so, stopped more than 7,000 projects worth about $12 billion. And we're certainly grateful because it was a nice Christmas present for the taxpayers. And ironically, we also have to thank Senator Robert Byrd, the longtime king of pork, and Congressman David Obey for placing a moratorium on earmarks in the 2007 appropriations bills. So the pig book this year is much thinner than last year. And the reason, as I said, is the leadership of Senator DeMint and others, and the path forged by Senator McCain, who for many years fought a lonely battle to stop pork barrel spending, and Congressman Flake, who leads that effort in the House. There were 2 bills, Defense and Homeland Security, a total of $13.2 billion in pork this year. And this is the Chinese Year of the Pig, and fortunately for taxpayers, it's a much smaller pig. But there's no pork dividend of that $12 to $13 billion because Congress took that money and spent it on other programs. And what we're seeing is members still trying to get these pork barrel projects funded through the back door. They've been calling up the agencies saying, can you just put some money in for wood utilization research or the Sparta Teapot Museum, or perhaps some water-free urinals in the defense budget, which were in last year's bill. And the Bush administration, the Office of Management and Budget, has told agencies through a memorandum to ignore oral communications from members of Congress asking for projects to be funded. So this is what we have to watch out for, to see if any of those 7,000 or so projects that were not included in the joint resolution funding the government for the rest of the year and were in the committee reports will still nonetheless find their way somehow into the agency's budgets. Talking about these committee reports, there was an interesting debate earlier this year. In fact, it was the 5th vote of the year in the Senate when there was a discussion about how to define earmarks that would be covered by the new transparency rules. And the Senate in S1 covered about 5% of the earmarks that go through the appropriations process. Senator DeMint and joined by Senator Coburn were up on the floor offering an amendment to match the House language. And it was interesting to see Senator Jim DeMint, a wonderful conservative from South Carolina, quoting Nancy Pelosi, saying, I want Nancy Pelosi's language. And Senator Reid said, the House doesn't know what it's doing. We're going to object. And the effort to kill Senator DeMint's amendment failed, as several of the new Democrats, actually 2 of the freshman Democrats, voted with Senator DeMint, along with the Republicans. And Senator Reid tried to go around the normal process instead of accepting it by unanimous consent, saying, we want to find a way to defeat this. So Senator Reid was against this and then suddenly became for it when he saw that he could not win that vote. So we have a broad definition of what is covered by new transparency rules, and the 2008 appropriations, which are going to be moving forward shortly, will be under those new rules. Of course, the House has rules, the Senate has a bill, and there's no permanent fix to the earmark problem. And both Senator McCain and Congressman Flake have had legislation for some time that would really uncover and expose earmarks and make these changes permanent so that the next Congress can come along and decide at once different rules. And that's what we really need in order to ensure that we don't have projects like $1.7 million to improve the shelf life of vegetables, which was served up by Senator Patty Murray of Washington, who bragged about bringing home $55 million in pork in the 2007 defense bill. We've also got $1.4 million for the obesity in the military research program. And we thought that was all supposed to be taken care of in basic training. We have $58 million overall in research of that type throughout the Defense Department, and we have a National Institutes of Health, so it's not clear why we have all of this money flowing through the Department of Defense for all of this research. There's $225 million for port security grants in the Department of Homeland Security. That's a 29% increase over last year. In 2005, the Inspector General of the Department of Homeland Security audited these grants and said that some appeared to be for a purpose other than to prevent an act of terrorism. There are 6 ports being funded by this program in the state of Arkansas, none of which appear to qualify under the grant program. There's $1 million for the Allen Telescope Array in California. I believe it's the second year in a row that this project has been funded. It's part of the search for extraterrestrial intelligence, and it's not clear which planet the aliens are going to be coming from and how the Department of Defense is going to defend us against such an invasion. There's also $1 million that now Speaker of the House Nancy Pelosi got last year to fund the Military Intelligence Service Historic Learning Center, which will preserve the site of the U.S. Army's first language school established in 1941. One would think that the Army has a lot more to do these days than to worry about its first language school. We have long been fighting the war against wasteful spending, and pork, as Senator Coburn said in his release that you have today, calls it the gateway drug to wasteful spending. And the culture of corruption that has been created by earmarks has to be stopped. And that's why we're certainly pleased to see that this year there's less pork. That's what we've been trying for since we started the Pig Book back in 1991. And you can see from the chart we had a 7-year run of increases up to $29 billion last year. And we're back down to $13.2 billion, about where we were in 1999. But that's only 2 bills. And for 2008, the subcommittees have already sent out request forms asking members of Congress what they'd like. And these forms, by the way, are in your packets, so if you'd like a new car or a new home and you want to send your request in to your senator, feel free to do so and see if you can get your own little earmark. And as that process unfolds, there'll be more exposure of which members of Congress are asking for these projects. We'd like to see the request forms before they go and are considered by the subcommittees. The House rules allow that, but only after the bills have been passed, and then only for those earmarks that were already included in the bills, and we already know who asked for it because that list is available. But the request list would be helpful because then we'd know all of the projects. We'd be able to talk about them before the subcommittees consider them. And it would shed a lot more light on what's going on here in Washington with our money. And since we've managed to survive 5 months of the fiscal year without all of this pork, perhaps when these 2008 bills are considered, members could really think about whether or not they need them for next year. We look at this as the beginning of an opportunity to make a real change in the number and hopefully the quality of earmarks that are passed through Congress. We're under no illusion that they will be eliminated entirely in 1 year, but with the help of the senators and the congressmen here today and others who are out fighting this battle, we hope that more can be done. And we'll be watching, and taxpayers will be watching, and they'll get more information than they ever had in the past. And for that, we're thankful to Senator McCain, Senator Mint, and Congressman Flake. And with that, I'd like to ask Senator McCain to make a few remarks.